Welcome, I'm Irina Nevzlin, Chairman of the Board of the Beit Hatfutsot Museum of Jewish People, and I'm very happy to have here with me Mr. Morton Mandel. Mort, thank you very much for taking time to be with us here today.
Very welcome, I'm glad to be here.
Mort, you were born in 1921, Cleveland, Ohio.
Cleveland, Ohio.
First American.
First
in
American
your family.
in my family.
Yes. What was it to be a Jewish boy in Cleveland, Ohio in the 20s?
As it happens, my father and mother operated a small retail store in a Polish neighborhood. So I lived in a neighborhood in which there were very few Jews. But I grew up with really anti-Semitism as a reality. I was too young to know what to call it. But I was called when I was 7, maybe 8, kike, as a negative expression by other 7, 8-year-old kids who didn't know except what they learned maybe at home. That's where they learned it. So I knew about anti-Semitism. I didn't know the name anti-Semitism, but I knew that I was an unpopular person to some extent. This was maybe 6, 7, 8. Then we moved to another neighborhood where there was none of that. And I didn't experience anti-Semitism in something that as something I understood till I really got much older. And it was much more subtle. It wasn't calling me kike in public. But so when I was young, it really was not a reality with me. But I knew about it, but it wasn't a reality.
That wasn't. But at home, how Jewish was the home?
Very.
Very.
Yes, my parents were Orthodox, very observant. Their major non-business, non-family occupation was the synagogue. My mother's social life was centered around the sisterhood of her synagogue. And it was very fulfilling and very satisfying for her. But that's the home I grew up in. And I remember things like Passover, Seder, how my father would not skip a word of the ceremony. It would go on for, felt like hours. It wasn't hours, because we were hungry.
It was hours. Probably.
Yeah, now I've sort of changed. I now skip pages and so on.
But you still do the Seder?
Oh yeah, it's sacred in my family. If my kids aren't there, they know it's death.
Really?
Well, not really, but yeah, they're there every year, 100%. You miss assassination, but I'm joking. You know I'm joking.
But
right?
you're a Jewish father, of course you're joking. You mentioned in one of the interviews that your mother, even when you weren't raised rich, you come from a very...
I would say we were on pretty low economic level,
yeah.
Not poor, never hungry, we never thought of ourselves as poor.
But you said that your mother was actually giving tzedakah and helping others.
Yes.
Was that the reason that you started philanthropy relatively early in life?
I'm sure it was. Generosity was very important to the Mandel, my parents, who had no money to speak of. They had to take money away from something needed. But my mother was very, very generous within limits. I tell that story all the time, that on my street, people went to Mrs. Rose Mandel to borrow $20. And she never loaned it. She always said, you know, take it, you'll find a way to pay me back. And I think that's part of why my brothers and I, we just internalized that behavior. Never a lecture about being generous. That's just the way she lived. She taught by who she was.
So you decided to create a charitable foundation when you were how old?
1953, I was 32.
Very not an obvious decision in that stage of life of the people. Most of them people come to that much older
right.
when they understand that there's something more than...
We didn't have that much money, but we knew we had to start giving it away.
And then you established it. Another not obvious move was to establish it with your brother together.
Yes, we were partners in philanthropy, partners in our charitable giving, partners in business.
And how did you make decisions together?
Sometimes with great difficulty, but we had a rule. I think that rule saved our relationship. Mostly this was around business decisions. When there were two who wanted to do something and one who did not, or two who did not and one who did, we had the rule that there had to be 3 yeses or 3 noes. 2 against 1 was out.
Right.
I think that saved our relationship.
I want to take you to year 48.
48.
So I want to understand what happened for you. Do you remember that day?
You mean when Israel was formed? Yes,
Yes.
I do.
So what was that day for Morton Mandel?
Well, I have to go back a little bit.
Sure.
We had a lot of relatives in Europe. We came from Poland. My parents came from Poland.
Galicia, right?
Galicia.
Yeah.
And we stopped hearing from them in 1930, probably in 1940, 41, somewhere around in there. And I never knew what happened. And on my first trip to Israel, I went to Beit Hatfutsot Museum.
Really?
Your museum. And I remember going here because there was a computer that if we put in a certain family name in a certain shtetl, we might find out what happened. I found out what happened. I got a printout, very few words. It was something like in August, I remember some of it, August 1942, German trucks came to Kulbishova and took all the Jews to concentration camps. That's it, just a few words. It was like getting, I remember, getting punched in the stomach, because now we knew what happened. So fast forward to 1948, and the first thing that I thought of when Israel was formed and we learned that Israel was open to Jews, whatever, didn't need a passport, didn't need anything. If they were in trouble, this was a safe haven. We realized that our relatives, 27, some of them or their children or whatever, might still be here. There was no place for them. And the expression "never again" just became ingrained in my head.
Right.
In my age group, never again is a very big phenomenon. For my kids and their kids, they don't feel it. I feel it. And
you lived through that.
So 1948 was a very important happening in my life. It helped shape me. That and the 6-Day War.
But 6-Day War, you came right after?
I was active in the non-Jewish community. I had a lot of non-Jewish friends, mainly between 8 and 5, not socially, but friends. And I would say good friends. They came to me after the 6-Day War, and they said, "Mort, listen carefully to my words. Mort, how did you guys do that?" I said to myself, "You guys?" They identified Jews with the Israel Defense Force, with the guys, with the people who did it. And I went home probably 4 or 5 days later, and I said to Barbara Mandel, my wife, I said, "We got to get over there." Now this is June 1967. August 1967, we were in Israel.
Right.
So that's the first time I came over. And I've been coming over ever since.
But do you remember what you felt when you came here?
I remember some of my experiences. One of them was that everybody was, not everybody literally, but everybody was Jewish. And I remember seeing how people dressed, especially the very religious with their shtrummel and all sorts of clothes and white socks or whatever. I said, my God, here they feel comfortable. Here they can be Jewish. And I thought what a miracle that was, that there was a place where you could be anything. You could be Greek Orthodox and feel comfortable, but you could also be Jewish, very Jewish, traditional Jewish, and feel comfortable. And I thought, what What a miracle that was. So I was very moved by the experience. Not moved in the same way I was moved when I learned what happened to my relatives, which was a very negative, shocking reality. My God, now I knew the answer.
Right.
And I didn't want to know that
You didn't
answer.
want to know that answer.
Right. So I felt very positive, and my attachment began to Israel without anybody's permission. And I've been coming over here ever since. And I think I would say one more thing. My experience in Israel has been very important to my life, to my sense of who I am. And it's added a lot of meaning. My activities in Israel have added a lot of meaning to my life. And we're all on that journey. We're all searching for meaning, for purpose.
Why are we here?
Yeah.
You are a very pluralistic person. You are basically believe that everyone should be included, from what I understand.
Yes.
Your experience with Israel and the way you see Israel now, does it answer your standards of what the Jewish state should look like?
I want to tell you something. There aren't many countries in the Middle East where you can be an Arab citizen of Israel and sit on the Supreme Court. I can't think of any Jew sitting on a Supreme Court anywhere else in the Middle East. Are we perfect? No. But there's 1 million, I don't know how many members of the Arab community here.
20%.
A lot of people are treating them with respect. Is everybody treating them with respect? No.
If I tell you Jewish people, when you think of Jews as a nation, what comes to mind? What are the most, from your point of view, what are the most important aspects of being part of that family? What does it mean to you to be part of that family?
I was born into a Jewish home. I had a marvelous, marvelous home. Very deep connection to my parents, and my memory is very strong and a very important part of my life, the way I feel about my parents. So I'm very loyal to Judaism.
You chose to embrace it also.
I chose to embrace it.
What about your kids?
They're all very active in Jewish life. I think I could say they're all proudly Jewish.
And their relationship with Israel, is it much like yours? Or?
No, they don't have my scars. I've got scars that they don't have. They didn't grow up with the overt, obvious, mean anti-Semitism that I did.
Right.
They didn't have relatives that they knew about that were burned.
That actually knew them, yeah.
Yeah, it's...
That you came and saw the paper.
You know, you're a product of the experiences. You're not a product of history. You're a product of the experiences you go through personally. On the other hand, they're supportive of the state of Israel because they think it's an obligation, but they don't feel it as emotionally as I do.
I didn't have a chance yet to ask you about the Mandel Foundation and the things that you are doing everywhere, but mostly, of course, Israel. If you could tell me the strategy behind it and what you want to achieve and how you see it going forward also.
My brothers and I developed a philosophy in business as well as in philanthropy that one way we could contribute to making our business more successful, I'll just take a second on that and then get to your answer, was to find people who were as exceptional as we could and find a way to bring them in, because we believed heavily in talent, in leadership, and that the fastest, shortest route to success was to have an organization with first-class people in it. Now, we started our business with 3 of us, pretty hardworking, pretty smart people. And we learned as we became increasingly successful that hiring based on how low a salary could we pay for a job was not the smart way. The smart way was to find people very much, hopefully, above average and pay what it took. And that was a hard decision to arrive at, because when we first started out, obviously you think, well, if we're going to hire someone, how much do we have to pay and make it as little as possible? We turned that completely around to say, let's get the best talent we can get and pay whatever it takes. we were very successful in our business. I think that's part of it. Not all of it, but I think that's part of it. So when we got into philanthropy and I got on boards of various organizations, I found a lot of mediocrity in both the professional ranks and, frankly, in the lay board people.
Yes.
I mean, it was in some cases pretty bad. And so somewhere along the line, we decided that one way to improve the human condition for nonprofits was to help bring in or promote very high quality people. And that was successful in our business life. One of the things we did, we acquired companies, almost always not well managed, put in good people, boom, things changed. It's not that easy, but to oversimplify, that's what we did. So when we came to Israel, we already had this theory. I was on the board of the Jewish Agency and chairman of the Jewish Education Committee of the Jewish Agency, because then I was the national president of the Jewish Federations of North America. And my committee had as an advisor a gentleman who was then the dean of the School of Education at Hebrew University. As we got along, we felt frustrated by the bureaucracy a little bit and so on. We decided to start our own foundation, start the Mandel Foundation, he and I. He took a leave of absence from Hebrew University, and we put up some money, and we founded the Mandel Foundation in Israel. Shortly thereafter, the Minister of Education he called my colleague and said, I need to have dinner with you and Mandel. Later he started calling me Mort, but with you and Mandel. I have a problem. To make a long story short, we met, and he said he was having difficulty recruiting leadership for the Ministry of Education. And could we be helpful? Because he knew I don't know how he knew, but he knew that we were into people or whatever. And all the way driving back to Jerusalem where we were staying, we debated, should we do it? He said, yes, we should. I said, no, we shouldn't. To prove how powerful I was in that twosome, we decided to do it. And we took over a program called the Jerusalem Fellows, which included Yuli Edelstein from the Jewish Agency. And we were off and running on finding very talented people, putting them through an experience which is now 2 years long. And so we started I'm fast forwarding, we started the Mandel School for Education and Leadership, and today we recruit people for 2 years, full-time. They have to quit their jobs. Average age of our recruits is 39. They're already been out of school, they've been into doing something. They're very successful. Today we get 250, 300 applications for 20 positions. We really get superstars, in my opinion. And they're with us for 2 years. We pay them a stipend so they can live. They might have kids. No moonlighting. If you take a part-time job, we throw you out. And we've been able to recruit, in my view anyway, exceptional talent.
You did.
We now are in our 21st group of 20. We have, I think, 350, 360 graduates. They're all over the country. Some of them are speakers of the Knesset. They're in ministries. They're entrepreneurs. One started a school with Arab and Jewish kids and Arab and Jewish teachers. One started a school with religious and non-religious in the same classes. We are changing Israel. It depends what you mean by change. Is it huge? Well, maybe in the aggregate, maybe it is huge. But so that's our main thrust. In addition, we have a number of other communities we deal with. We're dealing with helping increase their understanding of the world in which they live with high-ranking officers of the Israel Defense Forces. We now have a group of Haredis.
That's new, right? That's relatively new.
That's relatively new. And we're really investing our time and money in people, which is my central driver. That's how I want to change the world.
If you were to give an advice for someone my age, why would you choose still to be Jewish?
Look, I think we're all on the same journey. To find meaning in life, to find some purpose. Maybe not everybody thinks that way, but whether they think about it consciously or whether it's just subconscious, we all want to lead the life that makes us feel that the journey has not been wasted, that we didn't waste the journey. And I now know how to define success, a successful life, differently than when I was younger, when I was your age. When I was your age, success was fame, fortune, money, etc. Not anymore. I mean, it's still pretty nice to have the money. Success is looking in the mirror and seeing a face you respect and saying, especially when you get a little older, you're still a child, you haven't wasted your life, Mort. I've done a lot of things that make me feel good. And not so much with money, it's that I think I've been a good son. I think I've been a good brother. I think I've been a good parent. I think I've been a good partner to my partner, my spouse. I think I've been a good employer. I think I've been a good employee. I think I've been a good board member. I think I've been a good board chair. It's not money. It's values. It's Menschkeit. You know what Menschkeit means?
Yes.
That's success. And in my case, I don't know if I had a choice to pick any religion, would I pick Judaism? Actually, Judaism is beautiful. I might well have picked it out of the whole pot. But I was born into a Jewish house. My connection with Judaism was essentially focused around my parents' connection with Judaism. And I will tell you, I am a proud Jew. Everybody knows in my world where there are more Gentiles than Jews, everybody knows I'm a proud Jew. And working for the improvement of the quality of Jewish life has been an important reward for me.
Thank you very much for your time. It's been great to have you here, and I'm very honored.
Thank you. I've enjoyed talking with you.